It wasn't like, oh, you must sit in Zen practice and you shall have your back straight and you shall have muladhara in your hands and you shall no, it was just the feeling was so it was so clearly like sing a song once a day or dance because you just want to dance. Like just, or go for a swim in the ocean. Do one thing per day where there isn't a reason for you doing it beyond the doing of it. The myth that I want to let's say debunk um can only be debunked through direct experience. Um, so my proposition for those who haven't experienced this, for those who have, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But for those who haven't, is which is one that you hear a lot as well, I think. But it doesn't quite land until you experience it. Is um, the kingdom of heaven is within, and you can this this thing we call the mind, the ego, is an amazing thing, but it really is just a tiny part of everything. Like we're completely connected to everything that's going on, and almost everything that happens in our lives are not controlled by our mind. Our mind is a phenomenal machine at explaining, trying to come up with reasons for why what just happened is actually sort of within its control, and therefore we're still in the driving seat. And I think if you can have this direct experience beyond the self, I don't, and there's so many ways to get to this point. Um, but if you can have that experience, it completely flips your relationship with life and with the world. And I think the way you start seeing the actions you take, the way you react to things happening around you, can really turn on its head. So I think that's my biggest myth to bust is the idea that you can find happiness without. And okay, some people might at this point go, "Well, that's obvious. That's I hear that all the time. It's like, yeah, cliches exist for a reason. Um, they've survived a long time, and there's something in them. Um, and I think what the implication of that can be for a lot of people is, what would your life look like if you were to be more connected? If you were to step out of your mind every day, if you were to give a bit more credit to the natural world around you, give a bit more um, let's say respect to the people around you and the influence they have on you, and stop pretending that you are in control of everything. Like how would your life actually shape from that point?
Where's the possibility to experiment and experience this if someone was listening and saying, damn, I love the sound of that?
I have good and bad news. I think the good news is, if you're hearing this and it's resonating, you're probably on your way there to that experience. The bad news is you cannot control how it appears. So, I think the, I'm a type A person. Like, before I had my experience beyond the ego, um, like I was building a startup, a co-living startup before that. I worked in startups, I worked in sales. Like, I have this mindset of like, I'm gonna make shit happen. Like I'm gonna visualize something and then I know that I have enough willpower, to step into it and to use my skills to manifest it. Um, and the frustrating thing about having this kind of experience is I don't really think, the more you try and control it, the less likely it is to come. It's just like the problem is you have to you have to let go. It's like good luck trying to let go. That's like that's a paradox. So I meet all these people also in what I do, especially in the meditation part of what I do, who are like, I'm really trying to let go, Harry, and it's just and I'm like, oh man, oh man, you've got a lot of pain coming your way. Um, so I think the truth is you experience it by letting go. You cannot force that moment. It's almost an accident from my experience and everyone I've spoken to. It's an accident almost like because you can't force it. But you can make yourself more prone. More prone to this experience of beyond the self. And I think one of the ways to do that is to practice things like meditation, to practice things like breath work, to actually listen to, let's say, podcasts and read certain books where maybe you can, that can help you towards this state as well. I think that these all do contribute, to have a part to play, right?
Tell us a little bit about what happened for you, just because sometimes I think people can hear they'll hear whatever they hear, but it sounds like an intriguing story.
I was 27 when I started my first company, and over about 2 years, grows to a team of 15. Like we raised some funding, we kind of have revenue of over 1 million a year, and as you do, as a young human who starts winning, building a company, you kind of walk around like strutting around like a puffed up peacock, over-identified with my company, like completely, and the pandemic came along, and made travel and also community pretty untenable to run, let's say, and to put it lightly. Um, the uncertainty was actually worse than the regulations they put in place. But for a co-living company that was only 2 years old, it was a disaster, and I spent 2 years trying to make sure my company survived, trying to make sure like my employees were getting paid enough, that they had a job, that my investors were happy, and um, also trying to hold on to a relationship with an amazing woman that I deeply loved at the time. Um, and while that was all going on, like while I was being strong for everyone else, I wasn't necessarily keeping an eye on myself. And I essentially was so focused on the survival of everyone else around me that I forgot to focus on my own survival. And as the pandemic ended, um, actually, I mean, it's a funny story, but it sounds funny now. It wasn't funny at the time, but I remember as the pandemic ended, I got offered about 500,000 by our investors to kind of bring this co-living company back to life, um, and I remember just feeling no excitement. Like I remember my chest was tight, my throat was tight, and it got to the. I mean, I have enough willpower that I can ignore that. But then I started waking up every morning singing "I Want to Break Free" by Queen. Um, so I feel like that was like my subconscious. Looking back, that was my subconscious, just like turning up the obviousness of the signals. Like, is he getting the message? Should we tighten the throat? Is he getting it now? No, he's still trying to rebuild the company. All right, sing "I Want to Break Free." Surely that's got to do it, and that did it. But um, yeah, stubborn fucker. That's what I am. But yeah, I remember closing my company, losing the relationship I had as well, and just feeling um this sense of, okay, something in my belief system is leading to this life around me, right? And this life around me is not one that's nourishing me right now. Like I don't feel great. So something's off. And everything I do is a means to an end. Like I build a company to make money, to prove myself to my relatives and my friends. I create a relationship so that I can build a family. I build a family so that I can, and so, I even meditate to become more productive. I, do yoga to become more flexible. Like everything is a means to an end. And I remember just thinking like, something is off. Like something is wrong in my belief system. I don't know what it is, but this can't be all there is to life. And that was actually when I decided. I met ayahuasca through a friend who mentioned it, and for me, it was okay. This seems dramatic for someone who hasn't really had psychedelics before, and also, this is hard to explain without sounding a bit 4D, but something in me was seeking something powerful enough to take down my ego. Because I knew even then that I have extremely strong sense of self, very stubborn, very strong willpower, able to build companies, like very quickly. Like I knew I needed something, that wasn't a luxury yoga retreat. Like I needed something yeah, to dissolve my ego, to actually be strong enough to take it out. Um, and that for me was why I visited, and why for me 3 ceremonies of ayahuasca in 4 days. I mean, holy gods, I had no idea how intense it actually was going to be. Um, and but it really took me through a lot of pain and through a lot of trauma, like a lot, to the point where I actually tried to physically run out of the center on the second ceremony. Luckily, one of the shaman used to be a bodyguard, so he caught me 3 times when I tried to escape. That was lucky. Extremely strong man, and would just carry me back in. Um, but it took me to the point where in the third ceremony, I remember the intention of the third ceremony I had, and I was just like, I just want to dance. I just want to dance. I have no intention anymore. I'd have no requests from life anymore. And that was the moment where, in that ceremony, again, without expecting anything, I was, you know, given a glimpse of, yeah, a glimpse beyond the mind, a moment of samadhi, as you would say in Eastern language, or a moment of nirvana. And my God, do you not stay enlightened? Let me tell you that. I think it lasted. I don't know how long it lasted, but I was very quickly a flawed, messy human being. But to have that experience, yeah, it just shifts everything within you. I think after that was the first time I remember sitting down to meditate. A few days after my third ayahuasca experience, after that kind of opening, Um, and I sat down to meditate by the river, and I didn't. It was the first time I didn't meditate because it was on my to-do list. Like I would always be like, I need to meditate because Tim Ferriss says it's good, you know. And I remember just sitting by the river, and it was so peaceful and calm. And I was like, I'm just gonna sit here and meditate. And there was no reason to do it either. I don't know how many minutes or hours I sat because I just didn't care anymore. I think that was the first time I, almost meditated to meditate, like truly meditated as well. Because you're not suddenly, this mindset of like, oh, I'm going to do 20 minutes today. Oh, I did 25 minutes. Again, is missing the point. And yeah, I think from that point onwards, for me, um, I've realized that everything in life is a bit of a game, right? And you might as well engage. And the game is fucking tough. It's not just easy, but you might as well engage in a game that's pretty fulfilling for you.
When you emerged from this and you meditated for the first time, for the sheer joy of meditation, what was the journey for you in terms of adopting a practice, and how did you kind of take your first step towards what you were seeing? And then I'm sure that has evolved immensely, and so I'd love you to kind of run us through that, because I think for the listener, this really strikes at the heart of what the invitation is, which is, don't take our word for it, go play.
Yeah, great question again. The biggest feeling I had, which I want to share first before I share my own specific practice, is exactly what you said actually. It was like just this feeling of like, geez, just live your life. Like do something intentionally every day that you just fucking love. Like it wasn't like, oh, you must sit in Zen practice and you shall have your back straight and you shall have muladhara in your hands and you shall. No, it was just the feeling it was so clearly like sing a song once a day or dance because you just want to dance. Like just, or go for a swim in the ocean just because you want to, there doesn't need to be if do one thing per day where there isn't a reason for you doing it beyond the doing of it. So that was the most important thing. And it was really, if I reconnect to the feeling, it was so strongly like that, more than anything else. And um you know uh, I think along with the recognition, which I always really try and come back to, especially when people irritate me, which is quite regular, sadly, which is that everyone is doing the best they can, and it's like,
Mm.
so that's the simple foundation of what I believe in the most. Um, yeah, I mean, my personal practice, I like Al said, I believe in the middle path. Like my belief is that everyone is love and light when they're talking and when they're with themselves on the surface. But go and do things in the world, and you'll find out who you really are and what you really are. Um, and that's kind of cool as well, because like life is life is pretty unforgiving, as well. It's not just the thing I felt strongly was that life is a dance and life is a struggle, right? And so you don't want to forget either side of that coin. So I tend to do an hour a day, pretty much. It can vary, but I like to do stillness and movement is how I see it. Like a bit of breathing. I like to meditate for at least 5 minutes a day. I do think there's a reason meditation is seen in such high esteem. It's because it's the most diametrically opposed to the way we're programmed today, which is like rise and grind, hustle, do, produce. And meditation is the most, at least in breath work, you can be like, oh, I did this many breaths. I can, hold my breath for this long. You have something you can hook your ego onto. Like meditation, I think is really something worth keeping, even if it's just 2 minutes a day, because it is the closest to just being. In that it can truly be seen as pointless, because in a lot of ways it is, right. As long with being profound, it's also just like you're just sitting there. I mean, come on. So I like that, and then I like to move. Similar to you guys, as we were talking today. Yeah, just being humble, like knowing that you're not fully able to engineer your own inner world. So get help, right? Like if you go for a barefoot walk in the forest, like just see what it does to your mind, see what it does to your body. Like you don't have to like like try and solve these things by yourself. Once you recognize that there are things out there that can help you, if you're lucky enough to be near a river or an ocean, you just jump in it.
Hmm.
I mean, it's great. You feel. I mean, I'm sure people have. You guys are nodding your heads. Like it's like you don't you don't necessarily have to like, find stillness and happiness within yourself. You can just cheat. Like just get some help. So I think that's a big belief I have as well. So the practice is yeah, that's kind of my attitude towards it. And then like I said, live your life. Like go to the gym, lift heavy weights, like play sports, build a company, like try and create relationships, make mistakes, and then keep coming back to the practice every day so that you can just center yourself, give yourself a bit of love, and also reflect on where you've been, things you've been hiding from yourself, like
Hmm.
shadows in yourself, because we've all got lots of those. Well, I say we've all got lots of those. I've got lots of those. Probably you guys have too. But and it's also a constant discovery of the new ways you've been yeah, avoiding certain parts of yourself. How much am I busy in building my company right now because I need to be busy because it takes a lot of work to build a company? How much am I busy because being busy is an amazing way of me avoiding being by myself and confronting the fact that I might feel scared about something or lonely about something or confused. And it's like, ew, don't always want to open that box. Keep that one shut.
Mm.
Answer some emails. Um,
I think that is a very powerful, simple practice. Doing one thing every day because you would love to do it. That sounds so remarkably simple to me. And yet, I actually think that becomes quite tricky for people. I spoke to someone yesterday who was telling me how they'd had a really tough week and their kids had been super ill. And actually, on Sunday night, they thought their kids were better, and one of their children said, "Could they climb into bed?" And they said, "Yeah, sure." And then the child proceeded to vomit everywhere, all over their bed, all over everything, all night. So he barely got any sleep. And and he said, "I'm just not in a great space at the minute." And he said, "What makes it worse?" He said, "I've really just forced myself to do work today because that's what I should do." And we had this exploration, which was, well, if you didn't do what you think you should do, what is it you would do? And he stopped for about 20 seconds and he said, "I would have loved to have gone to the beach." He said, "I even had the thought, just go to the beach." And then he said, and then I heard this voice say, "No, you need to work." And we had this incredible conversation about like, how powerful could it be if we listened to that, to the whisper, of the universe that feels so good in the moment versus, to my mind, that was the whisper of the ego. You should work. But the deeper voice was, just go to the beach. Go to the beach. And he would have loved that. And so I hold that up because I think that practice of getting quiet every day and just listening for what the answer is. What would I love to do today? What wants to come through today? Is feels just profoundly impactful to me because the answer is often going to be, I think, run counter to what you would imagine the answer would be, and I think it would be a cool experiment for everyone listening to, as they listen to this, to get quiet at the end of the podcast and go, what is the thing that I would love to do today? And then act on whatever shows up. And it comes back, Harry, to what you said at the beginning. You can point to things and you can describe things, but what's going to make the difference is whether or not you're prepared to run the experiment and experience it. So I kind of, that just felt so impactful for me, and I wanted to share that. The bit I wanted to come back to, and I'm curious in the context of people who come to your, I don't know whether it's right within innate experiences, whether to call them to retreats or to your experiences, or for yourself. This idea of being with, perhaps it's your fears or, putting down the busyness and just being with whatever's going on for you, or um, where's the possibility in that? And how do you guide people to do that in a way that perhaps doesn't feel as scary as it might do for lots of people? Because I think there's a just a simple, I don't know how to do that, like sounds like a good idea, but I just I am not in the habit of doing that. I'm in the habit of running away. So what do you think is an offer for people? What do you perhaps do in your experiences that help people be able to just kind of be with whatever's going on with them, from a more peaceful place?
Yeah, it's a great question again. I think it's and I also want to speak to what you were talking about with your story as well, which is super interesting, which is this the I think if you have young kids, it's a little bit different because they're literally dependent on you. But so I can give that maybe a bit of a hall pass because I'm not a parent myself. I don't know, I can't talk to that. But for most people, I think busyness can be, yeah, it's like the ultimate illusion. It's like the default answer, the default state. I'm busy, busy week. And I find it interesting. Yeah, I do find it interesting to kind of call that out a little bit. It's like, I mean, like you're choosing to be busy, right? Most people, at least, they're subconsciously somewhere choosing to be busy. And it's interesting to kind of say to yourself, well, for Type A players, we hold ourselves to such high standards in the way we execute things, the way we make things happen. It's like, well, why not? Why not also apply that same level of standards and competence and unforgivingness to the illusion of busyness? Then, and that's quite a fun way of almost turning your, what could maybe be a bit of a curse in this game into a blessing again. It's like, Type A players are very unforgiving, right? And so we can just look at ourselves and go, "Hey, why am I saying I'm busy again?" Like, come on, like at some point, once you see through it, you can start holding yourself to a higher standard, which is interesting. So I guess part of what I do on the co-lives, the retreats, the experiences I have is call that out as well. Not in a mean way because that doesn't usually work. But you can kind of just invite people um, to see through the illusion with you. Um, I think the other way is you just have to load the dice in your favor. To be honest, like I said at the very beginning, like you can run uphill to, let's say, create more space within yourself to enjoy your life, to experience the present moment, and also, when you experience the present moment, guess what you're going to experience on the way to the present moment? All your shit, all your anxiety, because all of your traumas are attachments to the past, and all of your anxieties are you trying to control the future. So by definition, the more you head towards the present moment, the more you're going to bump into the past and future things tied up inside of you. And it's tough to find that space in the modern world because we have screens around us, we have phones, we have obligations, we have emails. You open your laptop to write something creative, and then the other tab open is your email, right? And at any point it can just ping. So I think what you have to do is acknowledge that, in strong moments you might be able to create space for yourself, but it's very unlikely over the course of time that you'll win. And what I do at Innate is just try and help people out. Like, so it's easy to be connected to nature and to slow down if you're living right next to a forest or even in a forest, and you feel the energy of the trees slow you down more into the natural rhythm of things. You hear the sound of the river. It's easy to get out of your body if you can just jump in a river because it's 2 minutes walk away from where you're living. It's easy to it's much easier to be present if you give your phone to someone, by the way. So we've done gatherings. We did a 5-day gathering recently, which is like a co-created festival of 100 people, and there were no screens allowed, right? Like we actually took everyone's screens away. Like they handed them into us. And I think that's a great way to start cultivating space, to just, at least in my opinion, get a bit of help from your environment, engineer the things around you, to actually give yourself a fighting chance here. Otherwise we're just like, eh, we're like obese people trying to quit sugar while our fridge is loaded with sugar. It's like, first thing you tell that person is don't buy the sugar, make the barrier bigger. So yeah, that's kind of how Innate does this at least. Like we don't try and preach to people. We just, load the dice in their favor. And I think it's something that people can do in their own lives as well. If they were to take, maybe even just 15 minutes, grab a piece of paper and just be like, all right, how can I cultivate more space in my life, in my head, to experience the present moment, to move my body, to enjoy myself, because it all comes from having space. And just write down a few ideas. I mean, one of them is like, can you block off a certain time of your calendar? Like, do you need to have your calendar full all the time with all those meetings? Can you not take meetings before 12 o'clock or something? Create some kind of rule. Can you, get yourself near nature on the weekends? There's lots of small things people can do to load the dice a bit more in their favor. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where I land on it, and kind of how Innate tackles it, at least. There are also more direct paths as well, like there are the, meditation retreats, ayahuasca and breath work, and, all these kind of more powerful ways to enter the present, but that's also not feasible all the time, is it? Like, it's if you want to live your daily life, it's I think more just about these small things adding up.